Hey, you there. Yes, you. You know that stack of uncoordinated friends that you always play and lose MMR with? What if I told you that I had some strategies that even you and your mechanically challenged friends could use and win MMR with? I know what you'd say, because I was thinking the same thing with my stack of mechanically challenged friends. Man, there's nothing we can do. I've already tried all these strategies that OG uses and EG Liquid uses and all those other good teams use. But then I realized something. You see, while me and my friends were using these copied professional lineups and trying to be tryhards, we were getting beat by these scrub lineups of 4 strength heroes. What the fuck is this shit? But then as I started to play more pub games and try out more strength hero lineups, and not just that, watch pros do it too with great success in most cases, I realized this is OP as shit. Of course, I don't mean OP as in the way that you can't play around it or counter it or deal with it in any way, because, that would be legitimately broken. Instead, I mean OP in the kind of way that someone's going to bitch about it on Reddit after they lose to it 4 times in a row because they don't change their playstyle. So without further ado, I'm going to go in depth on how to play and counter what I like to call the Beefstick Blitzkrieg. Alright, so I'm not the best at naming things, but just hear me out. There's some good points in here, I swear. Alright, so the first groundbreaking thing about the tanky Beefstick Blitzkrieg lineup is that you gotta pick strength heroes. Wow, a shocker. Yeah, I know. But what I mean by that is you want your mid, your carry, and your offlaner to all be tanky heroes. So preferably strength, but if you don't have a strength hero that fits your lineup, so you have to pick a Death Prophet or something still tanky, you can still do that. I've personally noticed that the lineup really works well with 3 to 4 strength heroes. 3 is a little bit on the lesser side, but it gives you a little bit more of something that I'll go over later. And then 4 obviously gives you a lot more tank, but it takes away from this other factor, which I'm going to go over now. So the problem with picking 4 strength heroes is that sometimes you can lack a little bit of farming speed and late game damage. Well, as long as you pick the right strength heroes, you can mitigate this pretty well. And so obviously when it comes to high damage strength heroes, heroes that come to mind are like Sven, which I'll get to later in a special category, and then heroes like Chaos Knight or Tiny. But that's not really what I mean. I don't necessarily mean high scaling carries that can right click well. You see, what I'm talking about are heroes that give you the opportunity to do more damage, not necessarily heroes that do damage themselves. So what I mean is whenever you have this high strength lineup, okay, you have to have good team fight and good disables. That is the number 1 key. Excuse me, I thought you said the number 1 key was having strength heroes. Alright, fair enough, so number 2 key. So I'm talking about not necessarily a hard 5 support, but that 4 role, but that's also kind of a core because it's a pub game. Good heroes that fit that role are Earthshaker's a good one, Sand King, Tidehunter's technically an offlaner, but a lot of people put him support role in pub games. Same with Abaddon. He's also pretty good as that 4 position, although he's not as good in team fights, so it just kind of specializes it. Other heroes can be good, like Undying. And then probably the best one that I've noticed, and this hero is absolutely absurd. I just start laughing every time this hero uses spells because it's just ridiculous, is Elder Titan. Okay, now before you start laughing, have you seen the radius of Echo Stomp? Look at this shit. Excuse me. 5-second stun on an 11-second cooldown. What game is this? I mean, at least the old techies that had his 6-second stasis traps, at least he had to place those, right? And then they wouldn't go off for a little bit. But no, this fucker, he just has this 500 radius stun, which, by the way, is in 2 places at the same time because of Astral Spirit. It just stuns everything. It's great. It works out wonderful. Most heroes that are this good at team fighting are not a strength hero like this, because then they'd be really tanky and hard to kill. But look at this dude. He's got this effectively 1,000 radius stun, okay, plus a spell that steals movement speed for people, so he can keep up in laning stage and stay back and get last hits. And then natural order, it's not that great unless you're against high base armor heroes, but it's still a pretty good spell. But then you have Earth Splitter, which is granted pretty hard to land, unless, you were to have some sort of, I don't know, long-range 500 radius stun that sleeps people for 5 seconds. But if you have that spell, then it would be pretty easy to land, in my opinion. Now, before all the sleeper agent Elder Titan pickers get all mad at me, no, the hero is not easy to play. I'm just saying he's really strong, especially with a good team fight lineup. So that's why he's good with this lineup. Anyway, moving on. Another thing you can do if, say, your mid hero is like a Magnus or something and brings a lot of team fight to the table is you can put a Night Stalker at the 4 position or a Slardar at the 4 position, which just basically runs around and hits people but is super tanky and really annoying and kind of becomes like a 4th core. All right, now we're going to move on to your not strength heroes. So that's your 5 support or your 4 and your 5 if you went with 3 strength heroes. Now, if you went with 1 non-strength hero, okay, so your 5 support is your only person who's not necessarily strength but just not tanky. Generally, what you want out of these heroes, okay, is some type of heal. if you can afford it. If you need stuns, get the stuns. But what I'm saying is if you have enough stuns with your other heroes, then you can get like a Dazzle, or he doesn't really have heal, but he offers good utility, so like a Disruptor. Heroes like this that can prevent other teams from keeping sustained damage on your cores. In my opinion, Dazzle is probably one of the best heroes for this 5-strength lineup. Reasons being, mainly his ultimate, which can give your team a buttload of armor, which strength heroes are obviously lacking. And then, you know, he's got heals and slows. And so it can prevent your cores from being kited to death and can keep them even more survivable. And on top of that, if you have one, like, support and all the other heroes are tanky, they're always going to target that one support first. And then Dazzle can, you know, keep himself alive with Grave so he can at least get some spells off. I mean, obviously, you don't want to use Grave on yourself, but you do have that option, and you can still get your ult off and a heal or two off. So he's a very good hero for this lineup. Other honorable mentions, Witch Doctor's really good if you need a stun and gives you even more team fight. Shadow Shaman's really good if you need some more push as well as stuns. AA can be really, really good if you have enough stuns, because even though AA himself doesn't bring that much pushing other than Chilling Touch, his ult prevents other teams from taking fights and defending as long as you're pretty close to them in farm or ahead. So he's a really good hero too. And now if you went with the 3 strength cores and you want kind of like a more utility-based lineup instead of just I'm gonna fucking run at you lineup, a really good 4 to go with is Enigma. Enigma just recently got buffed in the last patch, and in my opinion, I think he's really, really good right now. Another awesome 4 like position. He's technically a strength hero, but I kind of put him like in halfway between tanky and not tanky, is Phoenix, okay? Phoenix is so amazingly good with these lineups, okay? If you have a friend that plays Phoenix, try to get him to learn to play 4 position Phoenix, because he's probably an offlaner. And if you can do that and run him with like one of the 5 supports I mentioned earlier, that is winning right there. Because you could even put like a Void with it. I know he's not a strength hero, but he's kind of hard to kill, and the Void Phoenix combo is just way too good to overlook, okay? So even if you're uncoordinated, heroes like this you can use, and you can get MMR with these heroes. All right, so just to recap a little bit, you want to have an absurd amount of tanky heroes, okay? But you also, it's very important to make sure that you have good team fight. And then at least a little bit of push. And mainly by push, I mean the ability to take Roshan, because when you get Aegis, then you'll be able to just run at them and throw your bodies at the towers, and it works excellently. All right, now that I've given you pretty much the basics on this strat, and you guys can figure out how to use it and win with it, I'm going to tell you how to beat it, or at least the best ways that I've found to beat it. What makes this strat so hard to beat, in my opinion, at least at a pub level, obviously people who are really, really good can play around it, is that you pretty much have to draft against it, okay? It's very hard if you don't have the right lineup to itemize and play around this. You have to, from what I've seen, mostly just draft to beat these kind of lineups. The number one way to beat these lineups, okay, which is why I stressed the team fighting earlier, is you beat them in team fights. If you have a lineup that can take these people in team fights, so I'm talking about like Queen of Pain's mid, plus like a bunch of AoE stuns, and a carry that outputs an absurd amount of damage, you can beat these lineups. It is possible. You just have to basically prevent them from running at you. The reason is because when you have that many strength heroes in your lineup, you don't farm super fast generally. I mean, unless you have 5 tinies or something. You don't farm that fast. And so the main way that they're going to get ahead in the game is they're going to group up as 5 and push down all your towers before like 20 minutes. You're only going to have tier 3s, and then you're just kind of screwed at that point. So if you have a team that can beat them in straight up team fights, then they're going to have to split push, but they're strength heroes, so they don't farm that fast, and they generally don't push that fast. So then your cores, who are probably, hopefully, more late game if they're not strength heroes, then you can scale better, and then you can beat them at around the 40-minute mark. Another thing you want to avoid when playing against these strength lineups is don't take it super, super late, okay? So to play against them, you've got to hit a timing window. 35 minutes to like 45 to 50 minutes is like your window. Because the thing with strength heroes is they don't farm that fast, so around like 35 to 50 minutes, they're not 6-slotted. But once they start getting 6-slotted, they're impossible to kill. Just forget about it. Especially if there's a Dazzle on their team, you're not going to kill them. They're just going to run at your buildings and you're going to lose. And a good example of this is like a Dragon Knight, okay? Most people don't think of Dragon Knight as good in the late game because, you know, hate to beat a dead horse. He doesn't farm fast. But in the late game, if he gets 6-slotted with his heart and all of his other shit, you just can't kill the guy. It's impossible to kill. And on top of that, you know, you'll have people who like, well, just ignore him. He's the tank. Well, Motherfucker, 4 of them are tanky. Who are you gonna focus? And then, you know, while you're not focusing the Dragon Knight, every like 9 seconds he's stunning everyone and then mitigating your damage with Breathe Fire, and then it's a fucking flying dragon slowing everyone. Like, it's so hard to not focus some of these tanky heroes, and so that's why they can do a ton of damage in team fights. Like, Bristleback's another good example. If you don't focus him, he just gets 20 million, 1,000 stacks of Quill Spray on your team, and then you have nothing because you're dead. Okay, so anyway, I'm getting off track. Back to the drafting against these type of lineups. There are a couple heroes that are really good, but there are 2 that I want to mention specifically that are very good against these lineups. And the good thing about them is they're both strength heroes, so you can pick them in your lineups to prevent them from being played against you. The first hero that's really good against these lineups is going to be the manliest of them all, Sven. Now, the reason that this amazingly badass hero is good against these lineups is because he's tanky as shit. Okay, so the problem that most carries have against these tanky-ass lineups is that they have to kill, you know, they probably jump on the support first if they're like an anti-major or Slark or something, and they kill that support, but then half their team's dead because the other heroes are running them over, and then they have to kill 4 super tanky heroes, mainly by themselves, and so they have a problem, and then they just die. So Sven, obviously, is not going to die to these other strength heroes, but another good thing that he has is Warcry. Okay, Warcry gives your team a shitload of armor if you didn't know, and it can prevent your other teammates from dying. Not only that, but it can give you a good amount of movement speed, which is not to be overlooked because you can run away from fights you don't want and chase down these annoying strength heroes when you do want to fight them. And then he has his Stormhammer, which once you get a blink can be a really good initiating tool for team fights, which, like I said earlier, team fighting is the #1 way to beat these lineups. You can also use an Ursa if you can't pick the Sven. Ursa just because he can be a good tanky initiator and he can really rip through strength heroes, although he doesn't bring as much to the team fights, which is why he's not as good. The last hero I'm going to mention is Timbersaw. This hero is just incredible against these type of lineups because he usually has a good start in the laning stage, and he's really good at team fights, and he can steal away their strength stat, which not only takes away their damage, but their health, which makes them tanky, so, you know. Now, like I said, these strats can be beaten, and if you want some examples of these games, just look at the finals of the Manila Major. Pretty much every time one of the teams picked one of these tanky lineups, whether it was OG or Liquid, they lost. So those are good ways to beat it. But luckily, you know, in pub games, you're not really going to be playing OG and Liquid. So this can really get you some good MMR. So I guess that's about it on this strat. I had a couple other strats in mind that I'm going to make videos about. So I guess this is going to be the first of a couple different videos in a series. I don't know how long the series will go. I guess as long as Valve keeps giving me these strats that I can use and share with you guys. So just go out and pick a bunch of strength heroes, guys. I hope you have fun. See ya.
I don't answer stupid questions. You gon' need a new direction. You ain't getting no time, nah, like maybe a couple of seconds. Yeah, I'm coming back for seconds. Yeah, I think I learned my lesson. No mistaking this, girl. Why you all up in my section? Now I would walk out the door if I thought on the other side.